This time, the camera is called the Woca EF-4. To be honest, I know almost nothing about this camera. In fact, if anyone knows more about it, I would love to hear from you. I searched online, but I could not find any information about it, and I could not even find sample photos taken with it. What I can tell from examining the camera is that the entire body is made of plastic, and the lens is plastic as well. The lens is a 38mm f/8 lens. It says "Made in Japan" on the camera, but that may simply be a label, and I'm not sure how much trust we can place in it. The focus is fixed, so there is no way to adjust it. There is an aperture mechanism, but I would not expect too much from it. Let's take it apart. Disassembling this camera is very easy. Just peel back the leather covering and remove the screws from the body. Once you do that, the camera comes apart quite easily. If you ever get your hands on one of these cameras and decide to take it apart, you will find that it is very straightforward. The trick is simply to keep removing screws. Actually, I have loved taking things apart ever since I was a child. You know how broken appliances sometimes get thrown away? Whenever that happened, I would take them apart. Of course, I didn't have enough knowledge to repair them. But it was fascinating to see all the different parts inside. Things like motors and diodes. I would connect those parts to batteries and see what happened. Even something that simple was a lot of fun. Anyway, back to the camera. The disassembly is going smoothly so far. The lens section seems to be better made than I expected. Considering that this is essentially a toy camera, the aperture mechanism is surprisingly interesting. It is very simple, but clever in its own way. For this project, I will reuse the design data that I created for the Olympus Pen E3. The lens measurements are shown on the left side. Using those measurements as a reference, I created the new part. To explain it simply, I designed a 1mm thick frame to hold this lens. By combining it with the Olympus part from the previous project, I can create a mount that allows the focus position to be adjusted easily. Technically, the focus can be adjusted. However, this adjustment is not intended for normal focusing during photography. It is only used to set the correct position for the fixed focus lens. Once that position is set, there is no need to adjust focus during everyday shooting. Being able to reuse parts and design data from previous projects is one of the great advantages of 3D printing. Now it's time to combine the finished part with the lens. Actually, the process is very simple. I just drilled matching holes in the part, lined them up with the screw holes in the lens, and secured everything with screws. Since this lens is essentially built like a toy, I don't think there is any need to be overly careful with this lens unit. If this were a lens from a major camera manufacturer, it would be a different story. In those cases, it is usually worth taking extra care. In reality, the process takes a bit of time, but before long, everything is ready to be mounted on my Sony camera. Here's the usual lens test. This time, I only tested it wide open. The lens does have something that looks like an aperture mechanism, but it doesn't really work like a normal aperture. It just causes heavier vignetting instead of improving sharpness or image quality. Maybe it's just because of the condition of this particular lens. I couldn't get a good result at a distance of 1 meter, so I shot these at about 1.5 meters instead. To be honest, this lens is really difficult to focus. No matter how much I adjusted it, I just couldn't find a truly sharp spot. I did my best, though. As you can see, the image has a soft, dreamy look. It may not be obvious on screen, but this lens has quite a bit of pincushion distortion. It's pretty noticeable, so you'll probably spot it in the sample photos. Now let's check the backlight test. This time I recorded it as a video. I think video is a better way to show flare because you can actually see how it changes as the light moves, instead of just looking at a few still images. I think the flare from this lens is really fascinating. It reminds me of looking through a kaleidoscope. As the light moves, the flare shifts and changes in a really beautiful way. Alright, it's time for the sample photos. There's just one thing, though. Right now it's the rainy season here in Japan, so it's been raining almost every day throughout June. We even had a typhoon come through, so it's felt like nothing but rain lately. When the weather finally cleared up for a little while, I rushed outside and took these photos. So they might not be the best examples of what this lens can really do, but I hope you enjoy them anyway.